Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Ayman Nazir and welcome to Knowledge Realm. Well, in the previous video, we discussed the incidents of desecration of Quran in Sweden and Denmark, and we discussed those incidents in detail. We discussed the pretexts and motives of such infidels behind such kind of incidents, and we discussed the causes, impacts, and solution of such crimes in the world. Here in this video, we would discuss that how the burning of Quran is not justified, how the burning of Quran is a hate crime against Muslims. Because the people of Europe and the people of Western world, they believe that this is just an expression of freedom, and they cannot prevent it because this is not illegal. The law of freedom of expression legalized this, and they are allowed to do this, and the countries cannot prevent this. So here in this video we would discuss that how this is unjustified and what is wrong with international law and why the international law needs a revision and why there should be a legislation regarding the honor of all the religious books of the world. So we will discuss all this in this video today. So stay focused and let's get started. Well, to the distress of Muslims, there have been more than one incidence of Quran burning in Europe. The Quran burning, there is a history of Quran burning. Very sadly, we are compelled to say this, that there are more than one incidence of Quran burning in Europe. In 2019, an anti-Islamic group repeatedly burnt Quran in Norway. A far-right extremist politician of Denmark, Rasmus Paludan, who is the leader of Stram Kurs, burnt Quran in Copenhagen in 2019. Then in 2020, there were Sweden riots, and the Danish party once again planned the burning of Quran in Sweden. Then in 2022, once again, Rasmus Paludan declared a tour of Sweden, planning to visit cities and towns with Muslim majority with the intent of burning copies of the Quran during the holy month of Ramadan. And these days were known as 2022 Sweden riots. Then, recently in 2023, and unfortunately, these incidents occurred once again. Rasmus Paludan set Quran on fire in front of Turkish embassy in Stockholm on January 21, 2023, and again on January 27, 2023 in front of a mosque in Denmark. Then in Stockholm, Quran was desecrated on June 28, 2023. Then an ultra-nationalist group burned the holy book in front of Iraq's embassy in Copenhagen on July 21, 2023. Then, two protesters burned Quran outside Iraqi embassy in Denmark on July 24, 2023. All these incidents happened, and now Muslim world should do something to prevent this, because the people of Europe and the international society, they're not bothered about this. They say that yes, we condemn this. They say that yes, we do not like this, but we cannot prevent this. This is their reaction on such heinous crimes. They say that we cannot prevent this because this is deplorable, but this is not illegal. This is their reaction, their illogical reaction. And today we would discuss that how these incidents are a hate crime and how these incidents are unjustified. So we would discuss the recent incident of desecration of Quran in Sweden on Eid al-Adha. In Stockholm, Quran has been desecrated on June 28, 2023, when Muslims were celebrating their religious festival of Eid al-Adha. And two Christian Iraqi refugees burned several pages of the book outside Central Mosque because they chose this location because they wanted to ignite Muslims. They wanted to hurt the sentiments of Muslims. They chose this location. This is their evilness. Momika and Najm, these were the two perpetrators who desecrated holy book of Muslims in front of a mosque, and you would be surprised to know that they were granted with the permit and protection of Swedish police, and they were protected by Swedish police. They did all this in the presence of police, and Swedish police was protecting their protest, because the people of Sweden, they believe that they promote the freedom of expression, and their protest was just a freedom of expression, and they did not care that this was a hate crime. This was a kind of torment for the Muslim community of the world. Well, this action of promotion of hatred was a manifestation of Islamophobia, and we would discuss this incident, how the international society reacted on this incident. Now let's see how the international society reacted on this incident. Well, the United States condemned the incident, but added that issuing the permit for the demonstration supported freedom of expression, but it was not an endorsement of the action. Well, this was just a supporting of the Swedish authorities, and United States very cunningly supported the Swedish authorities. Now just note here the hypocrisy of and the heartlessness of the international society and the Western world. They are supporting freedom of expressions, but they do not know any boundaries or any limits of freedom of expressions. They do not know that this kind of freedom of expression is hurting the sentiments of the second largest religious community of the world. All they care about is the freedom of expression. They are saying that the permit for the demonstration supported freedom of expression. But what kind of freedom of expression was this? So this is how United States, the superpower of the world, reacted. Then the NATO Secretary General Jens, he stated that the incident was offensive and objectionable, but not illegal. Now this is the problem here, that such kind of incidents are not illegal. No law in the world, the international law. Well, there are some countries who outlawed the desecration of religious books. There are some countries, for example Pakistan, for example Saudi Arabia, and there are some countries who outlaw the desecration of religious books, but this is not the case with the international law. And international law does not prevent the desecration of any religious book in the world. So all these people are saying that this is objectionable, this is offensive, but this is not illegal, and since this is not illegal, we cannot prevent this. And this is the main problem here. Denmark and Sweden, they also said, the government of Denmark and Sweden, they passed this statement that we deplore the burning of Quran, but we cannot prevent it under rules protecting free speech. They say that we promote free speech here and we cannot prevent this. The United Nations Human Rights Council approved a resolution on religious hatred and bigotry, and I don't know if you would be surprised to know or not, but the United States and European Union opposed the resolution. 28 countries voted in favor of the resolution. They said that yes, there should be some principles that could prevent such incidents, and 7 countries abstained from saying anything, from favoring or rejecting the resolutions, but 12 countries rejected the resolution, and United States and UK were one of those countries. So this is how international society reacted. International society is saying that we cannot prevent it because this is not illegal, and if something is not illegal, we cannot prevent it. Now this is the most interesting slide of this video today. we're going to discuss this how the burning of Quran is unjustified and how this freedom of expression law is controversial. Well, my first argument would be violation of freedom of religion for freedom of expression. This desecration of Quran is conspicuously a violation of freedom of religion. We all know that Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights guarantees the freedom of religion. Freedom of religion or belief, expression, and practice of religion is guaranteed by Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We humans are free to choose and practice and express our religion. And now today, the people of Europe like Rasmus Paludan and the Gert, these far-right extremist politicians, they are demanding a ban on Muslim community, they are demanding a ban on immigration of Muslim community, and they are demanding a ban on Quran. So this is completely violation of freedom of expression, violation of freedom of religion in the name of freedom of expression. And this thing proves that the banning of Quran is unjustified because you are violating the right of freedom of religion. Now let's compare the law of freedom of expression with the law of freedom of religion. Article 19 of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights guarantees the freedom of opinion and expression. Article 19, the point 2 of Article 19 notes that the right of expression includes political discourse, commentary on one's own affairs and on public affairs, canvassing, discussion of human rights, journalism, cultural and artistic expression, teaching, and religious discourse also. But the point 3 of Article 19 places some restrictions on the rights guaranteed in Article 19.2. It says that there should be respect of the rights or reputation of others. We should not violate the respect of the rights or reputation of others. Then there should be protection of national security or of public order. Then there should be protection of public health or morals. Now here I would like to quote a very interesting example of YouTube. We all use YouTube, and we all know that there are community guidelines of YouTube. I mean, even YouTube has its guidelines, and YouTube does not allow the people to post any violent content on the site. YouTube does not allow bullying. YouTube does not allow any content that can promote terrorism. YouTube does not allow any content that can promote hatred. YouTube also has its community guidelines. In fact, YouTube also gives you the option of restricting the comments that are full of hatred or any objectionable content. So these are the community guidelines of YouTube, and here I'm giving this example to explain this, that even YouTube has its community guidelines, and today the European world is saying that under the cover of freedom of expression you can desecrate the most revered book of the world and you can hurt the sentiments of the second largest community of the world. This is completely unjustified, and the international law indirectly renders this unjustified. How? Because the international law grants the right of freedom of religion to the people, and we are free to express, believe, or practice any religion. So any law of freedom of expression cannot incite the sentiment of any religious community. This is the violation of freedom of religion law. Then another argument that I would like to give here, this is viewers, this is violation of rights of minorities in Europe for freedom of expression. We all know that Article 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights guarantees rights of minorities. Minorities can enjoy their culture, profess and practice their own religion, and use their own language in another state. Now today, by committing such kind of heinous crimes, the some extremist people of Europe are violating the rights of minorities. Muslims are a minority in Europe, we all know this, and by committing such kind of heinous crimes, some extremist people of Europe are violating this right of minorities. They are persecuting Muslims psychologically, and they want to snatch their religion from Muslims. They want Muslims to quit their religion, to leave their religion, and this is a violation of rights of minorities. And international authorities, international institutions, the United Nations should ponder upon this. Then the burning of Quran hurt the sentiments of billions of Muslims in the world. This is another argument. We should understand that it's not about a person or two, it's not about a small society, it's not about a small neighborhood or just a small state. It's about the second largest religious community of the world. And these kind of incidents hurt the sentiment of 1.8 billion Muslims of the world. And these incidents are provoking. These incidents can trigger violence. And we should understand this, that burning of any religious book under the cover of freedom of expression creates a negative impact. So this is another argument that supports that yes, the burning of Quran or any religious book is unjustified in the world, because it creates a negative impact. And if a thing creates a negative impact, it should be unjustified, and it hurts the sentiments of billions of people in the world. Then another argument I have here, well, the remarks and the reaction of international society on the desecration of Quran shows that the people of Western world are hypocritic. This is the hypocrisy of Western world in the name of freedom of expression. I would like to quote an example here. In 2022, in the March of 2022, Will Smith, who is a very renowned celebrity of America, he slapped Chris Rock in the Academy Awards in March 2022. He slapped Chris Rock in response to Rock's joke about Smith's wife. Chris Rock cracked a joke about the Smith's wife who shaved his head. Smith's wife shaved her head, and Chris Rock cracked a joke about the shaved head of Will Smith's wife in March 2022. And Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. And this thing was appreciated by some of the Western celebrities, and they said that okay, this is very brave and very manly of Will Smith to stand up for his wife and to slap this person who cracked a joke on his wife, because the wife of Will Smith was suffering from alopecia and she shaved her head, and people appreciated. Some people, I mean not all, but some people appreciated Will Smith for doing such kind of act. So where did the freedom of expression go at that time? The person Chris Rock, he was just enjoying his freedom of expression, and he could crack this joke because they promote freedom of expression. So why did Will Smith slap Chris Rock, and why did people, the Western celebrities, appreciated him? This is the hypocrisy of Western world in the name of freedom of expressions, and the Western world is also confused that what are the limits of freedom of expression, because when there are the ambiguities of the freedom of expression, the ambiguity of this law is creating problems, and these ambiguities are creating problems. And now the Quran burning hurts the sentiments of 1.8 billion Muslims in the world, and it is not opposed by West with a might with which it should have been. So this is the hypocrisy of Western world, and once again it shows that the burning of Quran is unjustified. I mean, I have given you an example of a man who could not tolerate the joke about his wife, and he slapped the person who cracked the joke about his wife. Now here the Western world is expecting the Muslim world, 1.8 billion Muslims of the world, to just tolerate this desecration of Quran. So here I assert that this burning of Quran is unjustified for various reasons. It violates the right of freedom of religion, it violates the rights of minorities, and it hurts the sentiments of billions of Muslims in the world. And is this is not at all tolerable. Muslims cannot tolerate this, and Muslims would definitely retaliate and react, and international society and the international institutions should do something to prevent such kind of events in the future. Now we would discuss that what is wrong with international law. When I was studying, I was preparing this lecture, there are two problems and two flaws that I found with the international law. First of all, there are no defined limits of freedom of expression and speech. Freedom of expression and speech does not know any strict boundary. You can express anything, you can say anything, you can hurt anybody's sentiments, and you can do anything. It allows perpetrator to hurt the sentiments of different communities in the world, and this is not good for the peace of the world. It disturbs the peace of the world. And the incident that we are discussing today, that is the desecration of Quran in the world, this is the manifestation of this ambiguity of international law. It shows that international law is ambiguous on the freedom of expression and speech, and it does not define any limits, strict limits. So this thing is disturbing the peace of the world, and it should be changed. Then another ambiguity and problem that I found with the international law was that there is no universally accepted definition of hate speech and hate crime. Now today we all know that the incidents of Nauzubillah, desecration and burning of Quran hurt the sentiments of Muslims, and nobody is ready to brand this incident as a hate crime. Nobody is ready to call this incident as a hate crime. Why? Because there is no universally accepted definition of hate speech and hate crime. On June 18, 2019, United Nations proclaimed 18 June as the International Day for countering hate speech and hate crime. But there is no universally accepted definition of hate crime or hate speech, and these ambiguities are creating an obstacle in taking punitive measures against the people who are committing such crimes, because there is no universally accepted definition. So we cannot decide about what is a hate crime and what is not a hate crime. For Muslim countries, this is violation of the rights of Muslims, psychological persecution of Muslims, and conspicuously hate crime against Muslims. But the international society is not ready to accept this, that this desecration of Quran was a hate crime, because they do not have a definition of hate crime. So this ambiguity of international law is disturbing the peace of the world, and this is a very huge threat to the peace of the world. This could trigger a great war in the world. So these are the things, these are the flaws of international law that I wanted to discuss it here. Now we would discuss the way forward for Muslim Ummah and how Muslim Ummah should handle with these kind of incidents, and how Muslim Ummah should do efforts to prevent such kind of incidents in the future. First of all, Muslim countries should get united and propose a revision of the law of freedom of expression, because this ambiguous and controversial law of freedom of expression is not good for the peace of the world. This law poses severe threats to the peace of the world. There should be limits of freedom of expression to prevent such hate crimes against any community or religion, and there should be universally accepted definition of hate crime and hate speech, and punitive measures also to prevent such crimes. This would prevent disturbance of peace in the world, and culprits would be stopped from committing such kind of heinous crimes in the world. This is not good for Muslims only, but this is good for the entire world. This is good for the peace of the world. If we set some limits of freedom of expression, we can prevent such kind of incidents. We can prevent the incidents of promotion of hate in the world, and we can promote the laws of respect for each other and the laws of tolerance for each other. We can promote such kind of laws in the world, and we can promote such kind of values in the world. So these things should be done by the international society and international institutions. So this is the end of this video here. We discussed today that why the Quran burning is unjustified, what is wrong with the international law, and why international law, the freedom of expression, needs a revision. So I hope that everything is clear, and thank you so much for listening to me. Allah Hafiz for now. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe the channel Knowledge Realm.